Hello, my name is Danny. Today I am going to show you how to avoid the potential pitfalls in setting up AdWords API and linking it to an external data source such as SQL Server using C#. It recently took me about a week to do this, and I would say that at least 4 of those days were wasted. I'm here to prevent you wasting those days. However, a lot of the information to set this up is out there. Google have done very well to provide us with most of the jigsaw puzzle pieces. Here is a quick guide on how to put it together. As a matter of course, you will need your own database, local SQL Server or cloud database. Here is my cloud version with nothing in it. I did prepare a cloud builder for this using Google's own data dictionary. This is a like-for-like version with data types, field names and report names exactly the same as those in the data dictionary. Where they've used string, I've used nvarchar as a typical SQL exchange for that type of data type. If anyone wants the builder for this, then write to me at swiftreplies@zoho.com. So here is the output file to that builder. It looks pretty ugly, but if we put it into SQL, it begins to look something more familiar in terms of connecting to an instance of a database and then creating a table structure with some very simple data types. What it does is mimics exactly what is in the dictionary. I execute that now, give it a few seconds and then refresh the database. And we end up with exactly the same data structure as we've got for the 44 reports in the Google Data Dictionary, and in each of these we've also got exactly the same field names with the same data types. So when we upload the data, it's a perfectly good place to house this because it's a like-for-like offering with Google's data source. Now, if we go back to Google's instructions, and this is the very best that they've got in terms of structure, it says request a developer token here at point 1. Create test accounts. Well, you may actually have real commercial accounts, more of that in a moment. Get a client library, which it doesn't say much about. I can help you with that too. Set up authentication by OAuth 2. There are a couple of points on that which we'll address later. Get an OAuth 2 refresh token, which is in the playground area, which we'll talk about soon, and make your first API call, which it doesn't go into a great deal of detail with, so I will actually show you exactly how that works. Now before we do that, we need to look at credentials, because credentials is a particularly difficult part of the setup for Google API. And unless you get it exactly right, and it is easy to get it exactly right, you will find out it is exactly slightly wrong and will take you forever to figure out what's going on. If you excuse the little post-its on the screen there to cover actual client credentials, so I didn't really want to give those away for the client concerned. But the first and most interesting point is that in the documentation it says things like choose a non-web application, but I think it's important to draw your attention to the fact that the web application is the thing to create in your service types. In the documentation it says go to console developers google.com APIs credentials. I suggest you go there and you start creating credentials. And in there you'll see that yes, there is an other aspect to this where you can create a non-web client item, but there is also a chance to put in a web application item as well. I suggest you do both, and the reason for that will become clear in a moment. Another thing to remember is that the access levels are specific for both the developer and for the commercial client. So if you're a commercial grade customer and you're sending client AdWords items out into the ether, it's fine, but the developer content is totally separate to that. So if you've got a commercial account and you've got an orange developer listing in your client area and it says test account, that test account for the developer will not marry up to the commercial account on the business side, so you need to upgrade that. And you can do that through the standard access application, of which there is a copy here, which is on services.google.com standard access. And if you've ever done any SQL, which I presume you have done, this is probably about page 1 and 2 of SQL in 10 minutes. This is very easy stuff, and the only thing that's different is the during aspect, which is the amount of time that's elapsed in the query. So you can select records from a table where certain conditions exist during the last 30 days, or during yesterday, or during today. So that's the only thing that's different. So it's a really quick win. You can use your old SQL queries and you can pull down data. So take a look at that. Okay, so far, and I can't stress this enough, we've looked at the idea that if you're a test developer, you also have a different account for your business account, so you need to upgrade that. There's no point in trying to get in to a basic AdWords account where everything's commercially running when you're only a test developer. It's not going to happen. You need to upgrade it, and we've already discussed how to do that if you look at the original bit of content in this video. For that, a web application will help you with the playground credentials. Look at that as well and remember it. And apart from that, perhaps build your own database. We've started off with that. Those 3 things will help you a lot. And if you've done those 3 things properly, it will be very easy to follow through and get this thing connected in about the next 60 seconds. Okay, so let's jump in and actually get the .NET project up, because that's probably the best place to start, even though we really haven't got the credentials fixed yet. This is the place where they will go, so I want to show you how this fits together. So go to the developer library at the first link, which is developers.google.com AdWords API Docs Client Libraries. In there you'll see the go to the .NET library link. Download that link. You'll get a zip file called Google Ads.NET Live master.zip and extract that to an area on your local machine. I've moved it to a folder called C AdWords, and I'm now going to open a project called AdWords from that location. Okay, so here is the project which Google have very kindly prepared for us, and in it there are many sub-projects, but we need to concern ourselves with AdWords examples.c#, which is here on the left hand side. If you look underneath that, there's an awful lot in there, but if you look at the latest release, there is the reporting folder, which contains 2 very important elements for creating queries, which will allow you to take stuff from the API, or through the API, I should say, from Google's repository and put it into your own SQL Server repository. And those 2 things are the parallel report downloads file here and the criteria reports file as well. Before we do that, the most important thing is to get your credentials in here. Now, there are only 5 credentials to put in, and they are masked because these are actual credentials, so I don't want you to see them. But the developer token, you should be familiar with that, and that should be in your own client login. The client customer ID is the 10-digit number which refers to you as a client, none of your customers, just you as a client and your number. And that should be above your email address as well on the far right-hand side of the client login. The rest is generated by the playground, which we'll talk about later, and that's the OAuth2 client ID, the client secret, and the refresh token, which we can show you a bit later on. But that's it basically. You've got these 2 widgets which allow you to, not widgets, they're classes and partial classes, which allow you to query via AWQL. I'll show you that. It's very, very simple, and you've got 5 simple things here, but getting those keys exactly right is important, and we'll talk about that now. Okay, you will remember me banging on about the web client earlier on and creating that credential, and the reason for that is because your client ID and your client secret need to be put in here on the playground aspect of Google Developers authentication pattern. And in order to do the rest of it, you need to put those in on the client ID side here and here. That will then generate an authorization code. You will then click this blue button here. That will create your refresh token, which we've just been looking at. And you can ignore the access token as such. Once you've done that, you can then configure it to request the API by putting in your URI, which is in your web client credential. You should be able to find that in there, and then send a request. And once you've done that, everything's set up, and you can copy everything into the previous screen, which is your config file, which contains your 5 elements. So with that said, we've now gone into the download criteria report part of the project, and as promised, it's very, very simple SQL here. We've got an output format of .gz. We've got a select statement of the last 7 days, so that's a report name. Where's the select statement? It's here. So you've got these items, which are the fields, and you've got a bit more in terms of the during as well. And you can see these reflected in a query down here, which is, where's it gone? I've outlined it here. So the query is in the parallel report downloads area, and it's just a select statement. So it selects these fields from this report during today. I could have split that out into 4 lines, so it's just 4 components. And you can do that for all of the aspects of the data dictionary. You'll see that I've commented out many of the field names. You could uncomment them. It depends on your license in terms of what you've got access to and how many times you can run that in one day, which we've already looked at. But that's it basically. So let's watch the thing running. And it's just completed without any errors, and it's downloaded exactly what we've asked for. We've only actually got 1 active client plus 1 with some previous data in it. And we've now got 3 kilobytes of data straight from Google. So if you follow those instructions and you read up on all of the different aspects of Google that I've mentioned, you should be fine. But please be aware that you need to create a web account and to upgrade your credentials accordingly, and also to make sure that you have the relevant developer account for the commercial account, because they are 2 totally different things. I cannot stress that more than I already have done. And with that said, you could now extract that directly into the SQL database that we created at the beginning, because it's an exact replica of what's in the data dictionary, and it follows the same pattern. Again, my name's Danny. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, please feel free to write to me at swiftreplies@zoho.com. And I will be able to answer any of your other questions. Thank you.